This is the second of a two-part church leader tool on delegation, and where the first part dealt with the topics of why we delegate and who to delegate to, this one's going to focus on what we delegate and actually cover a process to do that. As a reminder, there is a handout in the resource section that you can print out, and that will help you to stay on track as you delegate. And also, there are a number of links and some very helpful resources also on the resource page. I would commend them to your reading and your continued learning. So in this second part, we're going to cover the what and also the how of delegation. So under what, first, we want to take a look at our task. We want to review what it is that we normally do or our projects, and we want to look for those that are especially manageable. Some tasks and projects are easier to hand to somebody else. Now, ultimately, all of our tasks and projects are doable by somebody else. If we get sick or we change positions, everything can be handed off. But start with those things that are easy first to hand off. Then next, look for those things that are repetitive. They are often a good place to start in delegating as well. And then also think about those things which can be a blessing to someone else. We talked about that under the why. This may really bless someone's faith to be able to accomplish a task or a project that currently is on your list. And you might also look for those tasks that are not life-giving or natural gifts for you. There may be someone in your sphere of influence, a staff member or a volunteer, who they are much better gifted at those particular tasks. And then you can also look for those tasks or projects which are less critical to your responsibilities and your calling. That helps you keep a focus on what is most important for your responsibilities. And then last, you can also start thinking about someone who is more gifted, going back, of course, to the who that we talked about before. So that covers the what. Now we're going to look at the how, and that is especially important as we work through this process, but we had to first work through the why, the who, and the what. So as we look at the how, first, let me just remind you that delegation is not dumping. There's a big difference between just dumping a task or a project on somebody else and effectively delegating it. So remember, delegation is not dumping. So as we dive into it, first, express appreciation to this person for their commitment and their gifts. Now, this is not just buttering them up to get a task done, but you've probably chosen them for a particular reason. We talked about that under who, so let them know what that is. Then second, help connect them with how this task or project moves the mission of your organization forward. Help them understand why it's important. Then third, there are some things to learn about delegating tasks and results. I don't want to go down this road really far because Michael Hyatt does an excellent job in this to the article, the blog post that's in the resource section. But Hyatt lists how there are different levels of delegation. And as you look over the list, all the way from just do what it is that I've asked you to do, all the way to make a decision and I trust you and, go ahead and do it. There are all these different levels that kind of differentiate whether it's just a task you're handing off or you're really giving them a deeper level of trust and responsibility. So again, I'd commend that article to you. Then as you continue on, you may need to write up the detailed steps or system of what it is that you are handing off. And here's a section I really want to comment on. Back a while ago, I talked about, I think under the why, one of the main reasons why people don't delegate. That was that you feel like you're unloading responsibilities of your own. But I would guess that the biggest reason that people don't effectively delegate is that it takes work. It takes time. It will take you time to write up a process or a procedure of something you currently have. In my own life, I would guess that in tasks that I've delegated, it's probably taken me 3 or 4 times as long to write the process up. Now, what you have to remember, though, is in the long run, it will save you time. The example I would use is there's a man who posts my sermons, Frank, great guy, every Sunday. And it was a task that I was doing every week to take my recorded sermon and to put it on the internet. And it took me a while to write that process up. But that time that it took me to write the process up and give that to Frank and train Frank, now it's saving me all kinds of time because Frank does that every Sunday for me after church. So just understand that there is a trade-off on the front end, but Frank's been doing that for almost a year for me now, and the time has been well gotten back by me. So just remember that it's time well spent to write up your process to delegate effectively. You also will probably need to provide training, support, or resources in order to, again, have that person effectively be well delegated to. You probably want to talk about the deadline for that task, maybe negotiate that with the person, and then also check in with them along the way. The larger the project, the more that matters to see how things are going. You may need to determine options if the deadline is not going to be met, and maybe even a backup plan. Now, some will say if you're delegating a project, don't make a backup plan to do it yourself, because that's a self-defeating. You'd have to decide that yourself if the task is so important that you do have some kind of a backup plan if the person is not effectively able to accomplish that task. And then, of course, when it's done, express appreciation to them that they have done the task well. Well, that's the why, the who, the what, and the how of effective delegation. Again, I hope that this is a blessing to you, and I almost always end a church tool by suggesting that you pass this on to somebody else. Maybe in this case, it would be somebody that you are going to delegate to. Tell them you're learning about this, and that way they're on the same page as you. I also wanted to share that one time I sat down with a colleague that I was coaching, and we made an agreement about our delegation. We each picked a task, and we talked about how we were going to do it, who we were choosing, and then at our next coaching session, we checked in with each other to make sure that we were effectively delegating. And I hope you are as well. Take care and God bless.